Pronunciation Pro.
Pronunciation Pro.
Hello and welcome to the Pronunciation Pro podcast. My name is Annie Rudin, and today we are going to talk about currency. Okay, what is your motivational currency? So you might be wondering what that means, and I'll definitely let you know. But before we get started, just a little insight on what's going on with Pronunciation Pro. We have, if you don't know this already, we have live study groups and live classes that happen 3 to 5 times per week within the Pronunciation Pro course. So live lessons, we do study groups, we do confident mindset trainings, we do book club meetings, we do English vocabulary and grammar groups. There's a lot of ways to kind of get some live feedback. We also have an AI generated assessment and an app, a daily practice app that you can use as you're going through the program. So lots of good resources to get feedback on your pronunciation, on your accent, on your mindset, which is a really big part of what we do at Pronunciation Pro. It's training your mouth and your mind to speak clear and confident American English. So a lot of great things happening at Pronunciation Pro. So we would love for you to join us there for just to really speed up your growth. This podcast is really helpful and it will give you a lot of tips and helpful information. But if you're really serious and want to dive deep into really improving your spoken English, you need a training program. And that's what Pronunciation Pro is. So we would love for you to come join us. All right, back to this topic of motivational currency. Just like every country uses its own form of currency, so like dollars for in the United States and euros for Europe, and yen I think is what, Japanese yen. Okay, we each have our own kind of currency when it comes to motivation, right? It's going to be really important for you to understand yours, and understanding yours can make the hard work of learning and practicing English feel more meaningful, it'll feel fun, and it'll feel worth it, all right? And this topic came up in our book club meeting, and I will be discussing more about our book club meeting and the book that we discussed, which was Reframe Your Brain by Scott Adams, I think was his name. We'll be talking about that next week. But a part of the conversation that I thought was really, really interesting is we got talking about, what motivates us individually to really work hard on building communication skills. And for me personally, it's connection. Okay, that's the currency that means the most to me, because connection with other people is my favorite thing. I love connecting with my kids. I love connecting with my fiance. I love connecting with my family, friends. I love conversation for the way that it connects us. And that communication can be texts, it can be emails, it can be in person, it can be phone calls, it can be Zoom calls. Any form of communication to me is connection. Even with strangers at the grocery store, I love to connect with people. And so it helps me feel closer to others, it builds relationships, and it's helping people. And that's what keeps me going. That's what's kept me going, working at Pronunciation Pro here and building this program for all of you over the last 15 plus years, is because I love the connection with you. And even this podcast, I love having this connection with you. I love being able to help you build the communication skills necessary to create connection with other people. Connection might not be your primary currency or your motivation. And today we're going to go through and talk about 5 different types of motivation And you may fall into one of these categories or all of these categories. There's not just one way to stay motivated, but it's interesting what tends to come up. These are kind of more the top 5 most common motivational currencies that I've seen within my program and with my students. It was funny because I was talking with my fiance, Matt, and he about kind of what motivates you and what motivates you. And he was so funny because he was saying that, he has his whole life, he has been motivated through rewards. He was saying that in grade school, the teacher would give him a star sticker on his hand if he had a really good day. Cause he was saying he was pretty disruptive in class and he was having a hard time listening. And so his mom and his teacher came up with this system of, at the end of the day, if he got that star, then he could go home and show his mom. And that was rewarding to him. So it was motivating to him to get that star sticker on his hand to show his mom, and it made him feel good. And then even later in life, he was saying that a boss of his, he was motivated, Matt was motivated by just a high five. Like, I just need a high five when I do something great, or I do something good. And his boss was like, I'm not going to give you a high five, that seems silly. He's like, come on, just give it to me. It will help me. And so he's like, okay, I'll give you a high five. And so, like, whatever it is that motivates us, we want to kind of pull from that, because motivation, oh my gosh, isn't that everything? Like, we want to grow, we want to improve, we want to be better. Like, the people that our pro community, you and the rest of our pro community, you're very ambitious, you're very motivated. And I feel like we're all kind of wishing we had even more motivation to be able to stay consistent with the things we want to. So here is some ways to look at motivation, and maybe it'll give you some insight on how to create more of it in your life. Okay. So let's talk about these 5 common currencies in English learning. First, we've kind of talked about it already, but I'm going to dive in a little bit more, is connection. Wanting to feel understood. Okay, wanting to understand others, but also feel understood. And I love our tagline is be understood, be confident, because it's that being understood is, I can understand the words coming out of your mouth. And the biggest frustration for my students is them being asked, can you say that again? Can you repeat that? And when that happens over and over again, it's very frustrating. And it's a disconnection. So conversation is connection. When we have that misunderstanding, it creates disconnection. But also on a deeper level, we just want to be understood as like who we are as a person. And so it really does have a deeper meaning. And I feel like communication is the doorway to feeling very understood. If someone is willing to listen and really listen and seeking to understand, that feeling of being understood is very deep and it's very powerful. Connection also forms bonds. We are creatures that need each other. There's a lot of evidence to support that, like, loneliness is the biggest killer. It leads to really poor life, quality of life. And so that those bonds are really, really important. And, it's building relationships. Okay. So what we're going to do is as we go through these, these currencies, what I'm going to do is kind of teach a little bit of reframe. So we're going to go from our original thought and then kind of the reframe thought. So when it comes to connection, we're talking about motivation. So original thought would be, if I make a mistake, people will think I'm stupid. Okay. So it creates disconnect. That thought creates disconnect. And we know that we get to choose whatever thoughts that we want to determine our results, right? The way we behave in our results. So we have to get really mindful of the stories that we're telling ourselves, and are they serving us? So if you go into a conversation saying, if I make a mistake, people will think I'm stupid, then it's going to create fear of speaking up. You're not going to want to say anything because it's going to create that disconnection. The only problem is by not saying anything, you're disconnecting yourself anyway. So we need to find a different thought that will help motivate you to practice your English, to speak up, to, put yourself in these uncomfortable positions because you want connection. You want more connection. So a reframe of that would be connection doesn't require perfection. Just, connection doesn't require perfection. It just requires trying, right? So if we reframe it as every time I speak up, I'm creating more connection. Every time I speak up, I'm creating more connection. Okay, that then, if connection is your primary currency, you're going to want to move into that conversation, that maybe uncomfortable conversation where you're not sure if you're going to make a mistake or not. But you recognize, hey, if I want connection, I've got to speak up. Connection will happen as you speak up. Okay, so I want you to kind of my action tip on this one is think of one person you want to connect with this week and reach out to them. Start a conversation, and with the expectation you are going to make mistakes, but that's not what creates disconnection. Not speaking up and not engaging in that conversation is what is going to disconnect you. But connection comes through communication with someone. Okay. Every time I speak up, I'm creating more connection. So that might be an affirmation or something that you write down so that you can kind of practice that thought, start believing that thought. And I guarantee that if you believe that, if you really practice that thought, it will lead to more engagement in English conversations because of that motivation to connect with other people. All right, the motivational currency number 2 is belonging, this sense of belonging. And I have talked to so many of my students about, especially being in the US, speaking a new language, just feeling like they don't belong in this situation. And they get it in their minds that if I sound like a native speaker, I'll belong here. And so that becomes very motivating to work on your English, is saying, okay, if I speak like everyone else, I will belong here. So a description of that belonging is just the desire to be included. Okay, you want in on the conversation. You want to be part of the group, right? A desire to be accepted and to be part, just to be part of that community, to be part of a group. There is an innate sense of, or innate need for us to belong to others. Again, it kind of comes with that connection piece. We want to connect with other people and we want to belong to the group. And there's safety in a group. And so our brains are wired to want to belong to the group. Okay, so our kind of the original thought that we need to get out of our minds, this actually comes, I hear this all the time from my students, is whenever someone is asked, where are you from? So maybe they detect an accent or they're just trying to create conversation. They say, where are you from? A lot of my students, their original thought is, I don't belong. Or they are noticing that I don't belong, or I'm an outsider. That is the immediate thought that tends to come out. But I know it doesn't serve you, because what happens is when you start feeling like, oh, I don't belong, they see me as an outsider, then you start pulling away. Okay? That I don't belong feeling does not make you want to engage in that conversation. So here's where I want you to reframe that. The reframe is, they're asking me where I'm from because they want to connect with me. And I'll have to tell you that from a native speaker's perspective, we ask that question all the time, whether you're from another country or not. It's a way of starting a conversation. It's a way of connecting. Native speakers say it to each other all the time. Hey, where are you from? Where did you grow up? And it just helps create a bond. We're trying to learn more about this person, and it's an easy place to start, especially if you have an accent, because it's an easy place to start because it's maybe the first thing that's noticed. And native speakers can pick up on the slightest of accents. So even native speakers within each other, if they pick up on like a Southern accent or like a New York accent or a Middle East, depending on where they're from, they'll have a little bit of a dialect difference. And so, just asking someone, hey, where are you from? It just gives a context of creating some kind of connection. Do we have something in common? Do we know similar people from where we grew up? And for you, it might be that they have us, hey, where are you from? Okay, you're interesting. You may not be from this country, and you probably have a really interesting story that I would love to hear, or I would love to learn more about. And so it's a bid for connection. That question is, right? So practice that reframe if that's a challenge for you. Reframe that like, I do belong. They want to get to know me, and I want to bring me to be part of this group. If they didn't care, if they didn't want that connection, they wouldn't even engage in any conversation. They wouldn't ask that question. Okay, so that's where I want you to do, is just like your action tip on this one is to join a conversation and show yourself that you belong. So when you have the thought and belief yourself that I belong here, that's a very, very powerful belief. And if you feel like you belong places, you will, you will belong, right? People are picking up around you about like the way that you think and the beliefs that you have in yourself. Other people will adopt that. Okay, it's very contagious. All right, so practicing those thoughts of I belong, they're looking for connection with me. All right, motivational currency number 3 is providing for your family and security. Okay, I have many students in Pronunciation Pro who are working on their pronunciation because they are wanting to advance in their career. They want to make more money. And we all know that in order to grow in your career and to advance in different companies, you need stronger and stronger communication skills. That's just period. Leadership requires really good communication skills. And so a main motivation for improving your English is to provide for your family, to create security for yourself and your family. And you're, wanting a better career and opportunities. That is a big, big motivator. Okay. So we got to work on the mindset that's going to help you stay motivated and tie it directly to that providing piece. Okay, so if you're saying, okay, this is too hard, I'll never be able to be fluent, we need to reframe that. We need to shift it to every small step I take now creates a better future for my family. Okay, tie the practice or the hard step or the hard thing that you need to do to that financial security. Every time I speak up, I am building more skill, building more leadership communication skills to be able to provide better for my family. Okay, this is all about taking care of my family and taking care of my security, my financial security. And this is the step that's going to get me there. Okay, every small step I take now creates a better future for my family, or some version of that. Okay, if that one works for you, great. If you want to reword it to something that's more powerful, that's great too. So I want you the action tip is, when you're feeling tired, or you don't want to do your daily practice, or you don't want to open up the Pronunciation Pro app or the Flow Speak app and practice in the program, or do your read out loud practice, or engage in a conversation, think, okay, this is for my family. This is for my future self. My future self is going to thank me. I actually really like that. I like that saying, my future self is going to thank me for doing this. Okay. And the more you picture that future self, the stronger it gets and the more motivating that gets. All right. Okay. Motivational currency number 4 is self-worth and confidence. All right. This is a really, really, really strong motivator for most of my students, is just building that confidence in themselves. So this would be just like feeling proud about yourself, feeling, respected, proving to yourself that you're capable of doing these hard things. So we have to there's a lot of reframes that we can do, or a lot of original thoughts that are preventing that confidence. But it could be just like, people are judging me if I mess up. I can't make mistakes. I have to be perfect. Things like that. That's not going to build confidence. That's not helping us in that. But if we reframe it that, courage builds confidence. Each time I speak, I become stronger. I become stronger. Okay. Each time I speak, I become stronger. I become more confident. Okay. You have to take action in order to build confidence. We have to, every time you practice, you're building more and more confidence. Every time you shift your mindset, you're building more and more confidence. You are becoming stronger. You are becoming more confident each time you speak up, each time you do your deliberate practice. This is building confidence. So it could be just that phrase, going into your practice. This is building confidence. This is building confidence. That is going to be a huge, huge motivator for you. So just kind of an action tip on this one is, I want you to scan your brain and think of what's one brave moment that you've had, no matter how small or big. I know you have had many, many very brave moments. Moving to the US, engaging in certain conversations when you just felt like you didn't have enough English to do it. Okay. No matter how small or how big, start gathering evidence of these brave moments, ways that you've taken action and you've built confidence. I guarantee you've built confidence in other areas of your life through training and practice and repetition. And just keep gathering that evidence to support that, like, you can do hard things and you can do new things. And you are someone who is willing to be uncomfortable for the sake of growth. All right. That's self-confidence. All right. Number 5 in our motivational currency, that currency of achievement and ambition. And as we were talking about this in the book club meeting, we had one student that was her currency. She just loves being able to achieve goals. She's a marathon runner and she loves doing training and getting, the medal at the end. Okay. She loves being able to just see the growth in her own life. So these are people who are motivated by growth, progress, and measurable success. Okay. An original thought that I see in a lot of very ambitious people and our ambitious students is this feeling of, I'm not enough. Okay. What I'm doing is not enough, or I'm not where I should be. I'm not improving fast enough. There's this sense of lacking. Instead of an abundant mentality, they have more of a scarcity mentality of, I'm not improving fast enough. I'm not enough. I have to keep working to be enough. And I think there's a fear that when you believe that you're enough, it won't drive them, you won't be driven to succeed. But I find the opposite is true, is that if you say, I'm enough, I'm exactly where I need to be right now, nothing has gone wrong, and I want to see what I can do. I want to see my full potential. And I'm amazing exactly how I am and who I am. And if you can really believe that in this moment right now, I love who I am and I am enough. And I want to achieve these goals. I want to work hard. I see in my mind's eye who I want to be. And I want to achieve that just because it's cool. It's really great. It's like it's not coming from under, and I find that the motivation is like, okay, I've come this far. Let's see how much further I can get. Okay. And I guarantee if you look at it, just like, look at how far I've come. Look at all that I've accomplished. And I'm not done yet. I still have more to do. And this life is a time for me to really, see what I'm capable of. That can be quite motivating. So I encourage you to kind of reframe those. If you have an I'm not enough mentality, that is a scarcity mentality. Let's move that into a more abundant mentality. I am enough. I'm pretty extraordinary, actually. And this is you saying it to yourself, okay? You're pretty extraordinary. If I were to sit down with you right now and you'd talk through your story and all the things that you've overcome and all the skills that you've learned and the things that you have accomplished, sure, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody's going to have their twists and turns in life, but maybe nothing has gone wrong in the process and you're exactly where you need to be. And from this point, let's see what more we can do. Why not? This is the fun part, right? It doesn't have to be a drudge. It doesn't have to be painful. Growth can be really fun and exciting. Okay. All right. So those are the 5 currencies that I have suggested. Again, I want you to figure out, what is your currency? What really motivates you? Is it connection? Is it belonging? Is it providing for your family and security? Is it self-worth and confidence? Is it this drive of ambition and achievement? Or is it something else? I'd love to hear if you came up with something else that's really motivating to you to build that, your communication skills in English. All right. Okay. Identifying your currency really does help reframe frustration, self-doubt, embarrassment. What is your English language currency? What matters most to you? What is your why? All right. The key is to know yours so that you can stay motivated even when it gets hard. All right. Write down your currency. Write down a reframe. Start thinking, okay, how can I reframe some of these things in a way that's going to motivate me based on my currency? And I'd love to see how that improves your motivation to stay consistent with the daily practice, stay consistent with your work, speak up more. Every time you speak up, you're practicing. Okay. What's the difference between a native speaker and you? Native speakers have just practiced English more. They've just spoke English more. Okay. That is it. So as you practice and you speak it and you get that repetition, you will be able to feel as clear and confident, as fluent as your native language. All right. All right. Thank you for being here with me. If you want more, you want to dive in more, please join us at pronunciationpro.com. And if you're on an iPhone, you can download the Pronunciation Pro app and join us there. We do have a lot of new things happening in Pronunciation Pro. So if you were a student before, come join us again. And if you want to keep refining and growing in your pronunciation, your fluency, your mindset, and your confidence. All right. Bye, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Pronunciation Pro.
Pronunciation Pro.
Pronunciation Pro.